Hello, and welcome to the Rising Coaches Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Bender, and today's episode is brought to you in part by one of our favorite sponsors, Dr. Dish. Dr. Dish is by far the best shooting machine on the market, and if you want a discount off a new machine, be sure to mention Rising Coaches to save up to $300. For more information, visit drdishbasketball.com or visit one of their social media platforms at Dr. Dish B-Ball. Also, if you're not already a member and interested in joining the largest coaching tree in basketball, visit risingcoaches.com to sign up today. You'll build genuine relationships with other coaches, have access to amazing content, and allow you to develop your craft, expand your network, and see job opportunities on our member site that don't get posted anywhere else. For more information, visit risingcoaches.com. Today's special guest, good friend of mine, Will Vergollo. He's currently the basketball analyst at Butler University. Coach Vergollo, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing well, Coach Bender. It's great to be with you. Thanks for having me. I was reflecting before I came on today, just our relationship going back 14 years now. Both managers, you at Minnesota, myself at Michigan, and how that's grown and blossomed and the things that we've experienced together in this profession. So I've enjoyed our relationship. Thanks for having me.
We had some good battles in those manager games. I think that's kind of how it started. Michigan versus Minnesota manager games.
That's right.
I picked you up, and we played like 2-on-2 or 3-on-3 because we didn't have enough players to play.
Yeah, that's before.
I got pulled over. I think I was driving.
I remember that.
Driving you in Minneapolis. I turned right on red when it said "Don't turn right on red," and we got pulled over. But we got away with it. So
we did. We got away with it. Manager games back then, for everybody that does it, 14 years ago, they don't look how they look now, where it's 5-on-5, 40 minutes, you record the wins and the losses. It was 2-on-2, 3-on-3. No one knew who won, who lost. I'd go back and tell all the guys that, hey, we won. You'd probably go back and say the same thing, even though you lost to us every time, I think.
Sure. I'm sure.
So
yeah, we didn't keep
that's changed now,
but I'm sure we hit pretty good percentages from three.
That's right. Well, you did. I was more defender, rebounder, distributor. But you had. Do you still have it? Can you still shoot
it? That's all I can do. That's my.
That's all you need to do.
You got to come challenge me for a shooting contest when you come
on. That's all you need to do. Get in front of your players, make a shot, immediate credibility.
There you go.
Coach still has it.
Well, good. Tell us a little bit about your journey. Obviously you just said that you were a student manager at Michigan. Tell us, how you got to where you are now and some of the steps that you took along the way.
Yeah, no, I've been really fortunate to be around just unbelievable people in our profession. And, I started at the University of Michigan as a student manager. And just as I go through, I'll just kind of say what I learned from, my experiences. So there's a lot of student managers or, guys that are, finishing their senior years, watching. And, what I learned during my time as a student manager is really just how to build value for yourself within an organization. Really important. Just how to build value for yourself and how to manage people, right? It's your first, time of getting leadership experience when you get to that head manager position. And even when you're not, you're managing people that could be older than you. You're managing guys that are freshmen and sophomore managers, and you're just really building a foundation for yourself and how you're gonna lead, how you're gonna deal with people, and you learn a lot from the people that are hard to manage, like the other managers that are hard, maybe some staff that are hard to manage. You learn really the most from those, and you just build on those experiences and take them with you as you move on. So really those two things, as a student manager, those are what I've really taken with me. Right after I finished as a manager in 2010, I worked for Coach Beeline at Michigan. He had a tremendous staff. One of those individuals I work for now at Butler. I'm in Coach Laval Jordan. I was fortunate to be hired. The timing was right. The GA position was open. They had one. I did, 3 years with Coach Beeline. I was able to build some value for myself, and hopefully I did a good enough job to be considered. And I remember, getting the call that, hey, you're going to be hired for that position, and it changed my life. It really did. And that track was great for me because it was good people. Whether it was there or somewhere else, I was going to be surrounded by people that cared about me, and people that would help me grow in that position. When you're in the GA position in Division I, and there's a little bit of, I was listening to your podcast last week, I believe, and that you talked about how it is to work for a Division I or Division II. I was fortunate to stay where I was, and that brought tremendous value, and that was great for me. Going the D2 route, which a lot of my friends did, opened up many doors for them that weren't open for me at the Division I level. You get to go out on the road, you get to recruit, you get to get on the court and cut your teeth and coach. And as a student manager, you want to get coaching experiences as quickly as possible, right? You don't want to just stay in support staff roles and, where you never get coaching experience. Like, you want to get it as quickly as possible. So that was a little bit of a internal battle. I was, stay at Michigan which obviously is a blessing and, very fortunate to do so, or go, Division II route, which, many of the people that I worked with advised, and a lot of my friends did. And I think both of them are tremendous routes. I was able to fortunate enough to take the Division I route, and, regardless of where you're working, when you're a GA, you really start to learn what it's like to work for a college basketball program. The inner workings, you're in every single meeting. You're listening to the staff have discussions about strategy, have discussions about players, how to build relationships with recruits and, families. And you're there to soak it all in. And when you're the GA, I was fortunate enough to just be everybody's assistant. You just want to be everybody on staff's assistant, the video guy, if you have one, the Dobo, all assistants, and then to a lesser extent, the head coach. But you just want to soak everything in. You want to learn every position and try to gain as much insight, because those are your next steps. You're either going to be, if you stay in college basketball, you're either going to be a support staff person, or you're going to move right into being an assistant. And you got to be able to hit the ground running as best you can, while not having the experience, but just soaking in all the information, everything you see every single day. And again, I worked with awesome people that changed my life. Kari Alexander, Laval Jordan, Jeff Meyer were at Michigan when I was there. Support staff people, Pete Kaler, CJ Lee, Kyle Barlow, who's an assistant at Ohio University, tremendous coach. Just being able to soak in experiences with all those people, and just learning, it's cliche, but you learn something from everybody and learn something from all of them. And after my time as a GA, we had two great years. As a GA, we were rebuilding, which was incredibly valuable for me to see. Just, going from a program, Coach Beeline got there, where we hadn't made the tournament in 10 years. And as a manager, you don't know which way is up, right? You're just there every day trying to help and throwing yourself completely into it. And just seeing the process of a build. And I don't know if there's anybody better in America than, Coach Beeline was at that time. And just seeing him, the process of building and bringing in, staff, hiring staff, and bringing in players that fit who he was and who the institution is, was just, incredibly valuable. And it still is to me to this day. But just, being a part of that build, and then finishing my 2 years, the year before the Final Four, unfortunately for me. But, seeing that build up to that point, and then going on and coaching Division II basketball at West Virginia Wesleyan College, which was, I look at all my years in coaching, and I don't know if you ever have a favorite, but that was so enjoyable. I get there, I'm scared out of my mind, right? I'm 22, 23 years old. I get there. The first thing that I did was I worked at a guy that was 24 years old, one of the best players in the league at that time. His name was Kelsey Williams. He was an unbelievable player, and just scared out of my mind going out there. And, when you're a GA or a manager and you're watching somebody do a workout or watching somebody do a practice, you're always thinking, all right, what could I do better? You're always kind of critiquing, and you get to that point after you've been somewhere for 6 years where you think, man, I definitely can do that. Like, I can get out there and I can do it. I know I can. And then you get out there and you're doing your own workout, and you start to uh, realize that it's not as simple, it's not as easy as it looks without high level of preparation, and just being ready for those moments, and being ready to instruct a player and teach them. Right, you're out there on the court and you're 23 years old. You really have no idea what you're doing. You have some experiences, but you're learning as you're going. And that was the foundation to my career. Those moments in those situations, going out there not knowing what you're doing, and then a day goes by, 2 days go by, weeks go by, and then you slowly learn how to communicate, how to relate to players, how to come across as genuine, really care about them, how to prepare every single day for what you're going to be doing, how to present information, present scouts. And when you're a Division II assistant at that time, Patrick Beeline was the head coach and I was the assistant, and that was it. It's a two-man operation. So you're doing everything, administratively and on the court and practice planning and anything that you could possibly think of. So you're just learning every single day. And that's where when you're, and I went to West Virginia. I'm from Michigan. I moved around my whole life. My dad was in the military. So I've been to a lot of places. But, I went to high school in Michigan, went to college in Michigan, and, now I'm driving 6 hours away, and, I'm taking a leap because I've always wanted to be a coach. I've known that since I was, 14, 15 years old, want to be a coach. So you go out there and you're like, all right, I'm going to go do it. And that's where I really learned that I loved it. Like, it wasn't easy circumstances. It wasn't difficult in any stretch of the imagination, but it wasn't easy. You're away from home and you're trying to figure life out. And that's where I really learned that I loved it. If I would have went there and wouldn't have been happy, then it's not for me. Because if I can't do it in those circumstances, it's easy when you're on the charter, right? You're on the charter plane, you're staying in really nice hotels, you're in environments where there's 10,000 people screaming, and like that's easy. Like that is easy to like. That is easy to love. But when you challenge yourself and you go to unfamiliar territory and you try to make a way for yourself, and if you can't do it there, then you really don't love it. You love the other stuff. And I found myself, I always tell this story. I found myself up at, 2 a.m. doing a scout for Davis and Elkins College, is the old WIVIAC conference. It's changed now. And I just remember thinking to myself, this is fun. Like, I love this. And, that was it for me. So that's where I really fell in love with the profession. When I really first got my experience to do it, not just watch it. Now I was doing it. So from there, I was there for one season. I had the opportunity to go back to the University of Michigan as a video analyst, a support staff role. And, I was there for some really great years, some successful years. And, during that time, I had a taste of what it was like to be on the court. I really didn't necessarily want to leave that. But I did because it was a great opportunity. And at that point, it was about, getting my master's degree. Like, I had a little taste of it. Now I'm going to go back and really, understand how, two things meld together, how my work as a support staff, person and my work on the court, how it melds together. How can I help the assistants? Because I was in that role. What kind of additional value can I bring to, the coaches that were there? And then just building trust and credibility within the organization, because, we could all only hope that in our profession is really difficult to to move up in, right? Some more than others, right? Some more than others. But for most, it's incredibly, incredibly difficult. You have to make a way for yourself. So you can only be, we can only hope to be fortunate to work with people on staff that are going to move up and move on, right? Not stay in the same place. And that's a huge part of our industry, right? It is, finding people that trust you, that care about you, that have aspirations for themselves, and building trust with those people and being able to move on with them, which is what happened very fortunately with me. I was able to be hired as a assistant at University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee in the Horizon League, which was a tremendous challenge at that point. It's an awesome school. It is a great basketball school in an unbelievable city. And in that year, we experienced a lot of challenges just coming in with 4 scholarship players. And what I learned there, what I take away, and I tell people is this as much as I can, is if you're ever in a situation where you're going into a complete rebuild, 4 scholarship players, a lot of the roster is gone from a very good team. The team that we took over for was very, very good, very talented. But you're starting over. And I think what Coach Jordan did, and what I'll never forget, is he would only recruit players or take players who he felt fit, right? Fit the institution, fit him. And we weren't in a hurry to get the best possible players we could get, regardless of character or how they fit him. We just wanted to get guys that loved basketball, high IQ, that were tough, and would show up and practice every day. When you're in a situation where you're trying to build a culture, you got to have guys, and I'm sure a lot of people have heard this, and I think it's very true. You got to have guys you can lose with and still get better, right? You don't want to lose while you're not getting better, right? It defeats the purpose of losing, right? Losing is Coach Beeline used to say, losing is fertilizer, right? And everybody knows what fertilizer is. It starts with the letter S, right? It's not pleasant. But you have to have guys that will embrace that and get better. And in our time there, we were in a lot of close games. We didn't win a whole lot during the regular season, but by the end of the season, our guys still wanted to practice. They still wanted to play. So we get to our conference tournament. We win 3 games, 3 days, make it to the championship game, lose in a very close game to a unbelievable Northern Kentucky team, which was extremely well coached. But that lesson isn't lost on me. That year isn't lost on me. So we finished that season out, all really happy with how it went, who we were having coming back. And, my wife, who was my fiance at the time, she moved out to Milwaukee with me. We love the city. We loved everything about the program, loved the kids. And, in our profession, things can change very, very quickly. And, my boss, Coach Jordan, his alma mater was Butler University, and Thad Matta stepped down. Coach Holtman got hired in June to go to Ohio State, and Coach Jordan was hired to coach his alma mater, which is unbelievable. So I was fortunate enough to follow him as a basketball analyst. This is my 5th season. 4 of them have been basketball analysts. The COVID year was interim assistant, and we're still trying to build and get better every single day. And I'm fortunate to just, again, be continually be around just unbelievable people from a staff perspective and from a player perspective. And now I'm sitting here talking with my good friend, Coach Bender. So it's been an awesome 15-year ride. And I'm looking forward to 15 more.
Should probably unmute my line there, but our paths are very are very similar in unique situations, and some of the experience that you talked about, like just kind of recapping your journey. So you talked about leading as a manager or like a head manager, and I made so many mistakes when I was doing that, and
God,
like
it's embarrassing.
relationships with my coworkers slash peers was not very good when I was a worker, and
Right.
now I've been in I've been in weddings of these guys, so like it's
That's
very
the best.
unique, like how after I stopped working with them, how relationships got stronger.
Yeah.
And now it's at the point now where I try and really value my relationships with my current employees to make them feel like that they're heard, they're understood, to push them to be better, to help take things off my plate, but at the same time like help better their lives. And I've taken great pride in that, especially since I've been a head coach, of trying to help guys get jobs, help guys move on, do things like that.
No, you're great at that. You're awesome at that. That's something that stuck out to me. You're always willing to help. Like I've you've got in contact with a few people that I know, that I put you in contact with, and you don't know them from Adam, and you're just willing to help because we have a relationship.
Yep.
And that's what it's all about at the end of the day.
Yep. So I hired Reggie Chambers here, did a really good job for me, and now he's top assistant in our league. And then Max Bent was another one, a guy that you knew very well, and I kind of dabbled with him with a couple of different things, but he ended up getting a really good position at a Division II level. I think it's back in the league that maybe it's the same league. It's you're right, same league.
Really good.
There you go.
Really Reggie was the point guard at West Virginia Wesleyan the year before I got there.
Yep.
This is funny how
small world. And you kind of talk a little bit about the GA experience, and I did the same thing where I stayed at the same institution, stayed at the high major level, and it didn't always force me to get out of my comfort zone.
No doubt.
I was challenging other people to take that, take a real serious look about what will help you not only short term but long term, of forcing yourself to get those reps, to get on the floor, to do different things. And you could do that at the lower level, especially with coaching and recruiting, because I was involved with so many different things as a GA or as a video coordinator, and I was just not quite experienced enough to get that next job or get involved with the next thing. And it was a struggle. It was a struggle, and looking back on it, I really enjoyed my time. We won. We went to NCAA tournaments. The high major lifestyle was great. But then you talked about, hey, taking that leap of faith and going to a smaller town or a lower level. And my experiences at West Plains and even here in Summit, Mississippi, like I wouldn't trade it for the world in terms of the experiences and the growth that I was forced to do, to do multiple scouts in a year, to learn my coaching voice, to get more reps. And I think that's extremely valuable because, like you said, you stepped on the floor to do a workout for the first time. Well, you've been watching workouts for 5-6 years, but then you get out there and like your first scout, you freeze, or your first
I froze up.
Little things that kind of
what were the 3 points that I wanted to make about 2-ball dribbling? You like
challenge yourself, you study, you prepare, and then
you just lose it.
Out your piece of paper and you're like, oh shoot, I forgot that.
And you and I are both classic overthinkers, so we got our little notes and we got, all right, this is how a jump hook works, and your foot's got to be angled this way, and you got to, and you put all this stuff into it, and then you get out there and you just you freeze up, and it's natural. I'm sure it happens to a lot of people, but you said it's about reps, right? Like if you don't have nothing replaces repetitions.
Yep.
Like we all know that. We're all coaches, and that's what we talk about, right? Like nothing replaces repetitions for players. Nothing replaces repetitions for coaches. And, when guys get in the gym, you're making shots. Your muscle memory is getting better. But most importantly, you're building confidence in your work. And if you're never on the court coaching, how are you going to build that confidence in your work? And that's been a challenge as I go from, on the court to off the court, is trying to maintain what I've learned, right? I've had a unique experience. I've had a unique journey in the sense that I've been on the court a year, off the court, on the court a year, off the court, on the court a year, off the court, right? And it's, I'm incredibly fortunate. I keep using that word, but it's true, to have those experiences. But, they don't mean anything if I don't continue to take them with me, right? As I'm, off the court, helping the program out in different ways, right? You're just trying to bring value in different ways now. And they're all great situations, but nothing replaces those repetitions. Nothing replaces the challenge of trying to get a player to become a better version of themselves. Like that's ultimately at the end of the day, regardless of how you do it, right? Whether if you do it in a way that is a little more soft tone or hard tone or whatever way in between, like that is what we're trying to do. And nothing replaces the actual work. So just then we get back to talking about being a GA at the Division II level or whatever level is in it, is just getting that experience. Like you didn't get it as a GA, neither did I.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
It was different. Like you said, there were new things. There were new challenges. I did a little bit more media work. I did a little bit more, like being in those meetings, you see some things and you kind of hear both sides. You're kind of like, hey, you're still kind of with the players and the manager stuff.
Oh yeah, you're
so line of figuring out, hey, what am I allowed to say? How am I going to force my words that are loyal in essence to both parties, or doing best, or hearing and getting information from one side or the other, I think is learning and developing that, like you said, that trust, that between players and your own staff.
Yeah, no, as a GA at that with our experiences, it's the player relationships. I'm sure when you were a GA, what stands out to you is the relationships with the players, right? Because you weren't that far removed from, your senior year. You weren't that far removed from going to, Michigan to be Hill Street and, going out and hanging out and being a part of that scene. You weren't that far removed from it. So it was, players are always looking for somebody who they can talk to in the way that they talk to everybody else in the locker room. So as a GA at that time, that's what you are. And there's a lot of value in that, because coaches and support staff can't necessarily have some of those conversations, like some of the real talk conversations, right? And the players are human. Like they want to be able to talk to somebody that's on staff, that's a little older, that has maybe doing what they want to do at some point, but have a real conversation about it, or a real conversation about how they feel about whatever is going on in their lives, how they're processing the challenges they face, and somebody that's close in age, and so that GA role obviously is there's incredible value regardless of level. And if anyone's fortunate enough to be put in those situations, just remember it is about the people. It could be a great experience. You could be going to somewhere that has all the resources, has everything, doesn't have the people that fit who you are, or they don't value you. They have, a bunch of other people on staff, and, you don't get the type of development. There are situations like that, and you may get there and it doesn't help you as much as you would like. So, don't just try to find, Coach Val always says, inspect what you expect. Like whatever you expect out of the position that you're going into, whether it's GA or whether you're a student athlete and going on a recruiting trip, or you're a parent whose son or daughter is getting recruited, or, whatever the case may be, whatever you expect when your 2 years is done, or however many years, make sure that they have it, right? Don't walk into it blind. Don't be fooled. So just, do your homework and make sure that you're going to be surrounded with people that, enhance who you are and can develop you, and you can assist them in ways that'll help the program.
Yeah, that's really powerful stuff. And, like you said, you're very fortunate to have worked with, some really good people and really good basketball families, and have continued to move on with it. So there's a couple more things from your intro that I just want to touch on. And then I'm going to ask you a series of like 3 questions that kind of go along with it. And you can answer how you feel best fit. But
you do a great job taking notes. I know that.
Sometimes, you
get a great note taker.
But like when you read and such, one thing that I think takes a lot of understanding is we all interpret information in different ways. And so when you take down notes or things that you find impactful or beneficial, and finding ways to ask questions to learn more, but at the same time, being able to put what you say into practice. Like, we could be the fastest learner in a room or know so much more information or information overload, but it's being able to contribute those that information, process it, and actually practice it. I think that's
No doubt.
very important. But side note.
That's the secret. Like, you can read 50 books in 50 weeks. If you can't take the information and process it and organize it and apply it, it doesn't have the effect that you wanted from the beginning. Like, it just doesn't. So, but that's not an issue with you.
I guess not. You never know. I'm still learning, so I'm still growing, still getting better. But what else I was going to say was, so you said you learn how to love it, and that was one thing that I just really resonated with me, is being at a place that may not be the most glamorous, or a city, or a location, or the level you think, or any of those things. But if you really love what you're doing and have a why or a purpose behind it, I think it just really makes a larger impact on being able to control your own happiness. And I think that's just something that you've done. And I just think that's something to note that's extremely powerful. So the next part I'm going to touch on, so this will relay into those questions, but you said building trust when you were like a video guy, and you ended up working, you had some movement above you, guys got a job, or continued to move up, and you had movement. And so tell us about the conversation. Obviously, Coach Jordan very well, and you work with him hand in hand. And Tubby used to say all the time, don't come around saying hello when it's time to say goodbye. So when all of a sudden, out of it may have been a weak situation where all of a sudden he gets the Milwaukee job.
Yeah.
Were those conversations had before he got the job? Was it something that was happening during the process? Was it something where you were doing things behind the scenes to help with the position? Like, how do you go about those conversations? Because there's a lot of people like ourselves that are, kind of dependent on someone else getting a job in our profession. In Minnesota, it never happened in my capacity. At App State, movement never happened. And I've kind of had to carve my own path. And I'm grateful for it. But at the same time, like, it's hard not to get, quote unquote, bitter in this business when
very much so. Yep.
And relaying that part of, going from assistant to going off the floor. Talk a little bit about those two things with Coach Jordan, and how do you remain continuing to get better rather than being bitter in terms of the movement of what happened, and in essence going, lateral or down in a title.
Yeah. So, the first part of that question is in my experience with the situation with Milwaukee, was those conversations really didn't need to be had, because we worked so closely together, and we connected over basketball. He is somebody that's really open to debate and sharing of ideas. And one of the great things he does is, he doesn't, when the door is shut and you're having conversations about how to game plan against Northwestern, right? Like, our offense against their defense. He's not the assistant coach, and I'm not the video guy. It's, here's my sorter. Here's what I put together. Here's what I see. Here's what I think makes sense. Here's their weak points. Here's our strong points. Here's where, they may adjust the game within the game. How are they going to adjust, when things get rolling? And we just really connected in those environments. And he was a big part of the reason for that, because he was open to listening to what I had to say. And he didn't have to do that, right? Not everybody does do that. So we just connected in those moments, and we always talked basketball. We always had an easygoing conversation. And, when it was apparent that he was going to, achieve a dream of his and become a Division I head coach, it was simple as, I trust you, and, this is a big opportunity for me. And as a first-time head coach, there's probably thousands of people you could hire, right? And 1,000 people that had a way better resume than I did. Um, but when you're going into that and all the pressures that come with being a head coach at any level, you want somebody by your side that you know is going to have your back. And I think that we had built that over 2 years as a graduate assistant, 3 years as a video guy, in the year in between where I was constantly calling, asking for advice on how to work with guards and what he thought about different things. So at the end of the day, you're just doing it genuinely. I think that the Coach Smith quote is so great because what I think of when you say that is, don't come to me when I get the job and now it's like, hey coach, like, congratulations, I'd really love to work with you. And by that point, if you haven't dove in and just are in it genuinely with the people around you, it's going to be a hard sell right at that point. um, because at the end of the day, and you're in a great position where you hire people, right? And hiring people is very difficult. Like, it is very difficult until you work with somebody every day. You don't know how they're going to be. So if you get the bonus of having somebody that you're around every day and you feel like you have a good idea of who they are, which is apparently how he felt about me, you don't really need to have the conversation to say, be ready to go. Like, I think this may happen. And, then you're just, now there's a million thoughts going in your head. But it's, when I was fortunate to be in that situation, that's not going to be like that for everybody. But that's just how my experience was with it. Um, so it was a very easy conversation. It didn't last long, and I didn't need to be sold, and he didn't need to be sold because we had built that over time. Um, and then we still have it. Like, again, I want to be around people that I know love me, appreciate me, and I feel the same about them. In that I know that they bring value to myself as a person, as a professional. Like, I want to be around those people. I don't care, what position I'm in. You just want to be in those environments. And he wants to be surrounded by people like that. So we just, I continually have a great, work relationship, personal relationship where we can trust each other enough uh, to have conversations and necessary to have a productive work environment. So I don't know if that answers both your questions.
Yeah, it does. The conversation that had to be had, and obviously you have an unbelievable relationship with him, and vice versa. Talk a little bit about like just going from Milwaukee to Butler and that conversation, because that obviously wasn't easy in terms of title and things like that. Just touch base on what that felt like, and what how you continue to keep that positive mindset and keep that in your head of like, hey, still being very fortunate of being where you're at and things like that.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're just you're always going through you're just trying to process daily, you're just trying to process the experiences that you're having, right? And at the end of the day, in our profession, what you have to realize is it's about, number one, it's about the players, right? They're in the center of the bullseye, right? Um, the institution for sure, but then it's also about the head coach. Like, we all want to be head coaches. We all want to get to that point. So if I put myself in his position, or the position that I want to be in, years down the road, it's who would I want working for me? Like, I want somebody working for me that really wants to throw themselves in and bring value to my team and my program. Um, so just I'm constantly trying to view it from other people's lenses. Like, when you're a head coach, you are tasked with protecting the program, right? And that starts with staff and then it goes to players, right? So, you know, I always tell Coach Jordan and any Coach Beeline the same thing is, you know, put me in the position where you feel like I can best help the program, right? Like, I want to work. It doesn't, rising tide lifts all boats, right? I want to be a part of the best staff possible. So if you see me in whatever position that is, that's the position that I'm willing to do because I believe in you and I believe in what we're doing. Um, so that's just the mindset I have. Like I don't have a, 5-year, time limit on the position I'm in, right? Like I think, it's a rampant in any industry, in any job. It's like, I can only be in this job for 2 years and then I got to go, right? What and it's great to be ambitious and, you have to have a mindset where you want to, move on and challenge yourself and take on different experiences. But what I see happening a lot is that people will remove themselves from, the industry because they feel like I have to have it by 2 years, or they're in a good job, but hey, it's been 2 or 3 years and it's time to go. And then they take the first thing smoking out, and it may not be a great opportunity. Like, and the next thing you know, you're done. Um, you're just taking yourself off track. So you gotta trust yourself. And at the end of the day, you have to have something that's your foundation, and that's my foundation. I don't want to say I have that this I'm going to be in this position for 2 years and then I got to go, right? Why? You don't know what's going to be happening in 2 years. It happened in the job that you want that could take you to places that you never saw yourself going could be 3 years away. So why take yourself out in two? Just stay there. If you love the work, continue to do it. If something comes along or you are able to find something that really challenges you and is in a good place and you fit, then attack it, go get it. um, and then be happy with where you're at. Like there's no, you take a job and it's like, did I make the right decision, did I make the wrong decision, staying or going? Or the right decision is the one you made, right? If you have that mindset, you're going to make it work, right? If you don't have that mindset, you're going to be constantly second guessing yourself and killing your own confidence and making yourself bitter. Like just, the where you're at is the right place because that's where you're at and that's the decision you made, and throw yourself into it. And you're always fighting yourself. It's just natural, right? You're always fighting. There's always that internal conversation, right? That we all have. It's a fight. But how you process information and how you keep yourself in a good place every single day is, vital to longevity. It just is. If you let yourself go down a bad path, if you start, feeding the negative dog, or you start feeding that dog instead of the other one, uh, then it quickly spirals out of control, right? And then you're not fun to be around anymore, and you don't want that. And again, it starts with what is if I'm a head coach, who would I want working for me, right? I don't want the guy that's going to be bitter, the guy that's going to come in and one day he's on a high, one day he's on a low. Those are the worst people to work with. Those people, you have no idea what to expect every day. Come in every day. Hey, how you doing? Oh, they're in a bad mood today, or they're moody. God, they've been moody for a week. What's going on? Like that's the hardest. Those are the hardest people to work with. So you're just looking to, you know, find emotional stability, consistency, because you owe that to the person that you're working for. You owe it to the players in the locker room, right? Our profession is inherently uh, has emotional highs and emotional lows inherently, and they come day by day, right? Saturday we win by 2, Tuesday we lose by 3, Friday we lose by 20. The sky's falling. Then you go on a 3-game winning streak. You barely get any sleep. You're coming in, you're grumpy because you got to do something you don't want to do. I mean, the emotional highs and lows on a daily basis are inherent in our profession, and they are in a lot of professions, right? We're not unique. But so, the people that find balance and consistency with their emotions, their personality, I think those are the people that find longevity. Um,
Yeah, just thinking about what you just said, it requires extreme maturity. I think everybody in the world needs to hear what you just said. And like, it's hard, like you said, what happens next can't be based on how we feel. And that's literally our everyday. And what you're speaking on is literally awareness. And if we can
right,
raise our level of awareness and keeping the main thing, or, figure out what is it that's actually making you mad or upset,
right,
being able to understand it and act in the right way, not based off the highs and lows, like that
yeah,
just brings incredible value to everyone in the world. If you can have that consistency and not be an emotional roller coaster in an environment where you're really graded on, hey, wins and losses, championships,
yeah, no doubt.
things where success is defined in so many different ways.
Yeah, highly pressurized environments, and
Mhm.
that's where I've really enjoyed that part of coaching more than probably anything else. Is just helping 18 to 22-year-olds process the daily challenges they go through, the emotions that they're feeling. Why did I play 10 minutes today? And, why did I play 20 minutes the other day? Like, what's going on? They have a million in the higher, you get to, everybody has a lot of people in their ears, right? It doesn't matter what level you're at. Like, it's the parents, it's the friends, it's, it gets more extreme as there's more exposure, obviously. But how to manage those feelings and how you process that. I mean, I think that's incredibly valuable. Um, and I think it's something that stays with you when you stop dribbling the ball, right? That's just how to, you need that when you're a dad, right? Always, and I don't know if this is true, but for me, it is like, I don't know if I could be a good coach if I'm not a good dad, right? Like, that's just not, I'm not capable of it. So, um, just in that, thinking that way and having that type of awareness and constantly challenging my thoughts and how I'm processing what's happening around me. And that helps me be a better dad. It helps me be a better husband. And it's something that I like to share, right? That is what I love to share to, people that haven't been exposed to it yet and don't know much about it. And that's the majority of, the people, the young people that we work with have no idea, right? It's why kids we use the term emotionally drunk. They get emotional and they lose it. And we all have players like that, and they're, slamming the seat when they come out of the game, or they just can't handle the intensity of the experience just because they haven't learned how to, process information yet, process emotions yet. And I think, other than helping them become better basketball players, I think that's the second most valuable thing that we can do. Um,
It's awesome, man. It's awesome. We all need to hear it. We all need to hear it, and understanding just like the overall impact that we make on a daily basis, not just through basketball, but through so many other things. One other question, and you mentioned it briefly, especially when you guys were rebuilding or taking over the program at Milwaukee. And you talked about, hey, starting over, wanting to be around guys that you can quote unquote lose with, you know,
mhm.
there's
That was a Dick Bennett. That
the
was a Dick
fertilizer.
Bennett.
There you go. So, talk a little bit about some of the impacts that have had on your life or that you've experienced that you really feel passionate about from a culture perspective. So your perspective is so unique because of the different titles and the different places you've been and the people that you've worked with and the situations. So talk a little bit about, what is culture mean to you? What is your role in
Yeah,
your
that's
position
loaded.
with
You're
culture?
great. You're
You know,
great with culture. You've done an awesome job. I know that's something that's near and dear to you. And I don't know if I can add to that conversation because it's a conversation that's been had so many times in our, podcasts across college basketball or leadership podcasts. And I don't know if I'm adding anything to that conversation. What I will say, the one thing I've learned that I feel strongly about, And what everyone has to be careful with is there's two types of culture, right? There's a stated culture, the words in your locker room, the things on the wall, right? What you say your program or your team is about. And then there's behaved culture. That's the one that matters, right? So if you have integrity up on the wall, Coach Beeline, integrity was on the wall and he lived it. We were calling compliance for everything. Like my man lived it. He is the best, to do it. And that's who he was and he embodied it. But if you have integrity up on your wall and you don't live it, you don't behave like it, you don't recruit like it, you don't, talk to your players with integrity, you're lying to them when you recruit them, or you're lying to them after they get there. And so what happens in a locker room is your players say, yeah, that's up on the wall, but this is how it really is. Right. And that's in any organization. Right. So you have to make sure that your stated culture, and there's a lot of acronyms and ways that you present it and get buy-in and all that. It is, how are you behaving it? How are your players, behaving it every single day? How are you behaving it every single day? Because if your stated culture does not line up with your behaved culture, you're a used car salesman. Like that's just what you are. You'll sell it. This is what we are. We're, use the acronym and we're about, humility and partnership and teamwork and togetherness and whatever that spells out. Right. And then you get there, the guys get there and it's not that at all. Right. You don't recruit to that. You don't hire to that. Like and we're talking about core values, right? Your core values should be a filter. All right. When I'm recruiting, when I'm hiring, all right, humility, appreciation, thankfulness, right? We're talking about the Butler way. Like that should be our filter. So when I go to recruit and I approach a kid that's, when you're recruiting, it's all tip of the iceberg, right? What's tip of the iceberg in recruiting? Can you shoot? Can you pass? Can you dribble? Are they a good player, right? Underneath the surface, it's, the little things. It is transcripts and, what their parents are like and, what does the person and the janitor say at their high school? Like, is this a good kid or not? Like, all the under the water stuff. But if you're just going off tip of the iceberg and you don't filter everything through your core values, you're going to end up with people that don't fit. So you're going to have this great stated culture. And then if you hire some people in and, you hire them for the wrong reasons, or you don't do the homework to figure out if they fit your culture or what you're saying that you are, then it's just going to be words on the wall. And then you're just wasting wall space. Like just put a mural up there of somebody making a jump shot, like at the end of the day. So I think that's the one thing I can add to the conversation is, think about it in those two ways. There's a stated culture, there's a behaved one, right? One matters way more than the other one, right? The other one sounds good, on a recruiting trip or a pitch or a podcast, sounds really good, but when you go talk to the players, it's not really like that here, right? And that's where people get fooled. So, I think that's the one, part about culture and the discussion that I've really learned just from the people I've worked with. Like they've behaved it, and it's why they are who they are. It's natural, and it's just an extension of their experiences and what they value.
And I think what you just said is extremely, powerful. And I'm even like evaluating myself while you're talking about it and thinking about my core values. And there's two that we literally like live, drink, sleep, and I know I live it. And there's one that I know there's every once in a while slippage. And, and I feel like that's where, some of our shortcomings have been. And even in my season or in years past is, hey, how can we do a better job of enforcing that specific bucket or that specific filter, whether it's in the recruiting process or living it, or you have, 8 of your 12 that are all in line of all three, and then there's a couple that aren't in one category, and you let the slippage occur. And that's powerful. I mean, that's literally the difference between winning and losing, or guys getting what they want out of their season and impacting others. And it frustrates the good kids. And it's because at the same time, our job is to help kids. And there's times where where do you choose your program or your team, like you were talking about at the beginning, compared to picking individuals that may need a little bit more patience or understanding or more time, but at what cost? What cost? And that's a challenge that we face as leaders or coaches every single day.
Yeah, it's the thing. I mean, as a leader, you are, the standard bearer, right? You are the person that sets the standards, sets the expectations, and then your job is to get people to live up to them, right? Which is a difficult job, right? It is an extremely difficult job. But in your area, you're always guarding against slippage from a performance standpoint. Hey, we're not, we hedge ball screens. That's what we do. We teach it at the beginning of the year. And you get into game number 12 and those hard hedges turn into somewhat soft hedges, kind of up there, kind of not, right? So you're guarding against slippage from that standpoint too. But then you're guarding against slippage in your culture, right? When the minutes get handed out, that's when it's really a challenge. That's why you got to have a great staff. But you're always guarding against slippage with your staff too. They're humans. They have emotions. Sometimes they're going to disagree with what you're doing. They got to be able to handle it like adults. And if it's severe or urgent, they have to be able to have a conversation. You have to be able to accept that. If that's the type of relationship that you have with your staff, if it's an open and honest conversation, some aren't, some are, and they both work. They both have worked. But if that's who you are, like, you got to hire a staff that's comfortable coming to you and saying, hey, we're struggling in this area, or, your messaging has to change. Like, you're not connecting with your players right now. Like, the way that you're talking to them, like, you have to find a different voice to say what you need to say. And then you're guarding against slippage because they may struggle. They may struggle to handle the ups and downs of the season. And they want to be head coaches, and you're always going to think, what would I do better? Because that's what you did when you were an assistant or a support staff person, and you got to expect that's what they're going to do. So it's when those conversations or those thoughts turn negative, right? So now those conversations are being had in the building, right? And they're all negative. They're not productive, right? So you're guarding against that. And that's why it's important that you recruit and you hire through a filter. It all goes, at the end of the day, it all goes back to that. If you recruited the right people and you hired the right people, you'll be able to overcome that. You'll have levels of it. If you didn't, it may get out of hand. And that's when winning and losing becomes winning becomes an incredible challenge. It's hard to win when you're not right on the inside, right? It's hard to win when you're fighting each other, or when it's just not, you're not having productive conversations. So,
yeah, some more good stuff. Yeah, that I really like what you said. Hard to win when you're fighting each other, and it's not so much like,
that's a Lauryn Hill. It's by the way, how you gonna win when you ain't right within?
There you go. But like the part of that too is, it's not so much being right or wrong, especially in this era of, like, it's not so much cut and dry. Like, it's not just like, black or white in terms of that. Like, there's so much of, hey, whatever happens, we just all have to be on the same page. We all have to understand, like, hey, what are we each going through? How can we move forward? What's the next best action? And what's the most important thing? And keep those things, keep the most important thing the most important thing. Keep the standard. Keep, what the next best action for us is this. Whether you like it or not, this is what we have to do. Not what you want to do, but we actually have to do to move forward and have the most productive, conversations and productive outcomes.
And that's the only thing you can control, right? What do we do next? What's next?
can't live in the past. You can only influence the future by what you do today. John Wooden right there. There you go, Coach. All right, as we kind of wrap up here, is there anything else that you've done a phenomenal job, and there's some really impactful stuff here that not only rising coaches need to hear, but everybody. And is there any questions that I should have asked that I haven't, or anything that you want to talk about as we kind of wrap up?
No, I just I just appreciate you having me on. Just encourage everybody to continue to challenge yourself and how you're processing what you're going through every single day. So you have some stability with what you're bringing to the table, whether it's a head coach, whether it's a player, whether it's a manager, or whether it's support staff. Like be reliable. Like those are the people that you want to have around. Reliable people. It is incredibly valuable and not as easy to find as you'd like it to be. So just continue to try to find ways to be reliable in the roles and responsibilities that you're given, and find some joy in it. Like there's going to be professional adversity. In the journey of a season, you experience the highs and lows. There may be more lows and highs for a certain season, more highs than lows. But it's really important how you handle it, and how you deal with it. And you have to create the habits that'll allow you to have continued success and longevity in, our industry, because the players need it. That's at the end of the day, that's what's most important. Your head coach needs it. Your players need it. And it is our job to fill that role and do it with consistency.
Incredible stuff, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on and taking the time as well, and wish you the best as you finish up your season here, and I'm excited to see what happens next in your journey, and keep doing your thing, man. I'm really proud of you. Proud to call you my
friend. Buddy.
Doing a great job.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you having me. Everybody have a good week.